Today, we're digging into one of the most catastrophic engineering failures in American history, the collapse of the St. Francis Dam. And trust me, what you're about to hear will probably change how you look at the ground right under your feet. 140 feet. Just picture that for a second. That was the height of the wall of water that just erupted from the San Francisco Canyon when the dam broke. It all happened just before midnight on March 12, 1928. We're talking about a wave taller than a 12-story building, and it was about to change everything. More than 400 people lost their lives. That one wave carved out a 54-mile path of pure destruction all the way to the Pacific Ocean. You know, it's still the second deadliest disaster in California's history, right behind the big 1906 San Francisco earthquake. So, how in the world does a modern masterpiece, a state-of-the-art structure, completely fail in just 3 minutes? Well, the answer is not what you think. This wasn't a story of bad concrete or some sloppy design. Nope. The real killer was something much, much older and way more powerful, hidden deep inside the Earth itself. Okay, to really wrap our heads around this collapse, we have to go back to those last few quiet moments in the canyon, right before this massive structure was just completely annihilated. So get this, at 11:57 p.m., a dam keeper is on his motorcycle just doing a routine patrol across the top of the dam. He saw nothing, absolutely nothing wrong. Everything looked perfectly normal. 3 minutes later, at the stroke of midnight, the dam was gone. And that wall of water was already starting its deadly journey. To understand how such a sudden, catastrophic failure was even possible, we gotta look at the dam itself, and, of course, the legendary man who built it. Now, the design itself, a concrete gravity arch, was totally sound. I mean, this was a trusted, proven method for the time. And it was engineered by William Mulholland, a celebrated self-taught genius who basically brought water to Los Angeles, making the modern city possible. This dam, this was supposed to be his crowning achievement. But here is the fatal irony. While the concrete structure itself was a triumph of engineering, its foundation was a complete mystery. Mulholland, for all his genius, had built a masterpiece on a mountain full of secrets. So, let's peel back the layers of concrete and steel, shall we? The real culprits here weren't mistakes in construction. No, it was something hidden in plain sight, the very rocks of the canyon. You see, the dam's failure was caused by a perfect storm of two completely separate geological problems. On one side, the east wall, it was anchored into a slippery, ancient landslide. And on the other side, the west wall, it was built on rock that, get this, literally dissolved when it got wet. Let's look a little closer at that east wall. The dam was anchored into something called Pelona Schist, which is a rock with these flaky, distinct layers. The huge problem was that those layers were angled downward, like a ramp pointing right into the canyon. And to make matters worse, this entire hillside was part of an old, unstable landslide. So when water from the reservoir seeped in between those layers, it basically acted like grease, priming the whole mountainside to just slide. Now, if you thought that was bad, the problem on the west side was even more shocking. After the disaster, investigators did this super simple test. They took a chunk of the red rock that looked solid and they just dropped it in a glass of water. Within an hour, it disintegrated. It turned into mud. The very water the dam was holding back was turning its own foundation into soup. So, with one side of the canyon ready to slide and the other literally turning to mush, the stage was set. A catastrophic and unbelievably fast chain reaction was about to be unleashed. So here's how it all just came apart in minutes. First, that west side dissolving into mud starts to crack under all that pressure. That little shift was probably all it took to trigger the east side, which was all lubricated with water, to just give way in a massive landslide. With both anchors gone, the dam's concrete wings were just ripped from the center. And ironically, that centerpiece, it actually remained standing. It was the only part of the dam built on solid bedrock. It just stood there, like a tombstone. William Mulholland, completely devastated, visited the ruins. At the coroner's inquest, he took full responsibility, and he famously said, "If there was an error in human judgment, I was that human." Overwhelmed by the tragedy he'd caused, he later whispered to his family, "I envy the dead." His career, and really his spirit, were just broken. But this immense tragedy wasn't entirely for nothing. From the rubble of the St. Francis Dam came some fundamental changes to how we engineer things. Changes that have, without a doubt, saved countless lives in the decades since.
Yeah, the industry learned a hard, vital lesson. After the disaster, thorough geological surveys became a non-negotiable first step for any big project. Engineering and geology became inseparable partners, and new safety standards were written into law, all to make sure this kind of preventable tragedy would never, ever happen again. Ultimately, the story of the St. Francis Dam is just a powerful and very humbling reminder. You can have the best design, the strongest materials, the most brilliant engineer, but if you ignore the ground beneath your feet, if you try to conquer nature instead of working with it, well, that's a battle you are always going to lose.